3, 2, 1. So this is what you use to weigh the animals. I like that quote. That was from Kinds of Kindness. That was a funny moment. I was also debating, I almost changed my mind instead of using that quote to do Koyaanisqatsi, which I might be in. I might be in the correct pitch for that, but I'll just have to trust that my lowest is probably okay. I'm Adam from Your Movie Sucks. This is Sardonicast. Hello, everybody.
I'm Alex from IHG, but that is not all. Who else is there in the background waiting to jump in and sing with us? The
lurking.
Ooh, I'm here to
lurking
join,
in the background, ready to sing.
Join the chorus, as it were. It's Gaël.
Hello.
Also from Adam and Pals sometimes.
Hi. Been a while, huh?
You returned.
Yeah, it's been a minute. I am back, finally.
Gaël is my roommate and friend and pal who has been on my channels a bunch, Adam and Pals stuff. He was on the episode where we talked about Incendie on Sardonicast in the second half of it.
That's right.
Yeah. What do you do?
I don't know. I'm like the queen, like you ask the queen, like, what do you do? She's like, oh,
the queen.
Nothing.
The French.
The French. No, I do a few. I'm around. I don't want to, give too much away.
A drifter.
Sure. No, I'm on the Adam's channel sometimes. We're friends. We went to a furry convention very recently and watched Kinds of Kindness, which we're gonna talk about. I like Lord of the Rings. I like Incendie.
That understatement. Like Lord of the Rings.
Okay, a slight understatement. I love
have you seen the Rings of Power Season 2 trailer yet?
I made him watch it with me.
It was very painful.
You shivering in anticipation?
I suspect it's going to be a painful watch the whole thing through. But yeah, no, thanks for having me back. It's been a minute. So I'm excited to talk about these movies.
Dank.
Oh yeah.
Alex.
Adam.
How many prime ministers have you had in the past 5 years? Go.
Oh my God. It's more than 5, right? Or is it 5? I think it might be 5.
You got a new one.
Yeah. Who even cares at this point? Yeah, we finally have a new one. I don't know. There's a new feeling in the air, a little bit refreshed.
A constant new feeling in the air for the UK.
Yeah. Well,
Labour.
It's been a long, my entire adult political life has been just this one status quo. So this will be the first time it's shifted from, anything different for me. So I'm interested to see what that is. But I don't know. You see what's going on in France. We just dodged a bullet there. But I'm hearing some bad things about what's happening in Canada. Might be lurking, building.
Well, I don't know.
It's kind of inverse, right?
I don't know. You can't really tell. You never know. We'll see.
We try to balance the invisible scale between the ocean so that whenever you guys have some conservatives in power, we just try to go the other direction. I feel like that's kind of how it goes.
When is our next election?
Yeah, when is it?
Next year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So just trailing America.
Or, yeah, I think it's next year, if not at the end of this year, but I could be wrong. I haven't looked at the exact dates. But I think it's funny that we were talking about this, how in the UK, the Conservative Party's colors are blue and the Liberal Party's colors are red, whereas in the US and Canada, it's reversed.
Yeah,
the Liberal
the
Party's
inverse
red.
from America.
No, in Canada, it's the same as the UK.
Sorry. Not in Canada. Sorry, I meant the US. Yeah, you're right.
The US, yeah.
In Canada. Yeah, the US is reversed. That's right.
I'm going crazy.
And I actually prefer the red for Liberal because I feel like it's more of a kind of communist color, and the blue is kind of cool and conservative. So I kind of think that I kind of like the way that the parliamentary system does it, but. We're here to talk politics. Welcome to Sardonicast.
Yeah. Okay, let's go.
Well, we can talk about whatever the fuck we want.
That's true.
Because it's our fucking podcast.
It's a political
It's
year.
the People's Podcast, and we own the means of production.
It's the People's Podcast.
I don't know how communist Trudeau is, though. So, I don't know.
And every movie is political propaganda now anyway. Am I right, guys?
Oh, yeah. I thought that Kinds of Kindness said a lot about something.
Trump?
Let's talk about it.
Just, yeah.
It's the new Yorgos Lanthimos film, Emma Stone. So he's doing one of these per year now for like 3 years in a row. He's already got the next one announced.
Oh, really? Yeah, I feel like we're just talking about Poor Things just a few months ago, because we were. It's, crazy to get another.
Yeah, because that was a really late in the year release too. Like that wasn't available for a lot of people until like December or January.
Yeah, I had to see it January.
Yeah. So this has literally only been like half a year for a release, which is crazy. Basically, he did a spoiler discussion, even though it's not really a movie you can really spoil all that hard, but spoiler discussion just in case. He did a movie that's basically like 3 shorter stories. It's almost a 3-hour long movie, so I guess each of these stories is technically feature length, over 40 minutes each.
True.
So he made 3 movies into one movie and used the same actors for each of the basically like sketches. It feels like kind of like a sketch, dark comedy, weird movie. It's like
an anthology. Yeah.
It's like Yorgos's Wild Tales or something.
Yeah, we've had a few of these anthologies lately, French Dispatch being another notable one. In the horror genre, they're the big ones, your VHSs and that kind of thing. But yeah, Yorgos, we're getting our strange, uncomfortable Greek version this time.
Well, the Greeks are known for their fables, right? So in a sense, one
true,
of them at least. So
very true.
It kind of works a little bit.
That's a great point.
What the fuck do we think about this movie? Because I really enjoyed it. I thought Poor Things was way better, and part of the reason why I was so hyped for this is because Poor Things is like one of the best movies ever. Gaël, you need to see Poor Things. So you haven't seen Poor Things yet?
Yeah, so I haven't seen Poor Things, so I have a slightly different perspective, I guess.
Okay, have you seen other Lanthimos movies in the past?
I've seen The Favorite, which I really liked. I really enjoyed The Favorite. I'm trying to think of what else
You've seen The Lobster, right?
I may have seen. I have not seen The Lobster.
What the fuck? Have you seen Killing of a Sacred Deer?
Yes, I've seen Killing of a Sacred Deer. I got that kind of vibe from the first story of this movie. It kind of has that. Obviously, like it gets more. What do you call it? It gets more supernatural as it progresses. I don't know if there's a better word for that. But Killing of a Sacred Deer had this kind of like hanging kind of feeling in the air the whole time. This kind of uncomfortableness, which I got a lot from like the first. I don't want to call it the first story.
The first
that feels right.
Chunk. The first chungus.
Because they're not really linked outside of anything more vague or thematic. There might be little things that join them here and there, but they are mostly siloed off. Kind of what makes it interesting is, the same cast returning for each one, but the costume design, the hair going in, and the actors having fun, like differentiating these same actors playing different characters in each one of these stories. And that's, I don't know, broadly, I just don't really love anthologies as a format. There's like a lot of the time I feel like it does kind of kneecap the overall potential
You're a hater?
of what a movie is. Because like, kind of, I gotta go there, I gotta say it. This is one of the more interesting examples of an anthology to me, where it's mostly that runtime that it comes down to for me. Is this is his longest film by far. Poor Things was a long movie, but there's just something about the pacing and the cadence of the kind of full stop feeling of, okay, we're going to the next story now. Now we've got to kind of do act 1 again. We've got to build up the pace of the story again. We've got to do this 3 times. And I'm there for the first time. I'm there for the second time. I'm starting to feel fatigued by that third story. And it's not even that I have an issue with what happens in that third one, or that it's necessarily lower quality than the first 2 in there, but 2 hours, 44 minutes is a long ass runtime for me to sit there. And I have to admit, I was starting to feel it towards the end, and I couldn't help but feel like, man, would have I enjoyed this more if this was like 3-hour-long episodes or something that I could watch in my own time?
Oh yeah, like a Netflix special or something.
Yeah, because we were just talking about Nathan Fielder's latest show, The Curse, and that has it has all these strains and links between episodes, but I could approach it in my own time, and maybe I would have been fatigued if I was forced to watch that in big 3-hour chunks. So that was kind of my overall thoughts from that first watch. What about you, Gaël?
I was actually, it's funny because I didn't feel the runtime as much. And it almost felt like when I was watching it, like he started with the longest story. It almost felt like it was getting shorter. Like it felt like every subsequent story was shorter than the one before it. But that could completely be just my weird impression of it. They could be all the same length. They could be getting like subsequently longer. I don't know. There's something, I was very engaged the entire time. And I was like very desperately trying to find like a through line between the three, just because like there's this kind of weird RMF thing that's some sort of link that I obviously I don't know what that is, but I think the fact that I was really trying to look for something made the runtime feel a lot shorter for me. So that wasn't too big a deal. Normally I don't like super long movies except for The Lord of the Rings, but
yes, of course.
I don't know. What do you think, Adam?
Well, so I felt like the first segment could have been shorter.
Really?
And still, the first segment I felt could have been shorter. The second segment I feel could have been like an entire feature-length film on its own. For me personally, I was like, "What? Damn!"
That's how I feel about the first.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, the second segment I was like, okay, I would be down to see like an hour and a half long version of this just fine. Because I just love the dynamic of the like everything at play with him being like, oh, she's not real. Like I feel like there could have been so much more that could have been explored out of that I didn't feel like any time was wasted on that one, and it might have even ended too early for me. And then the last segment, I'm still trying to process exactly how I even feel about it. I liked it, but I like that. That's the final segment is one where I'm like, okay, I got to watch this a second time to really know exactly how I feel about it. Each of them have like it's kind of funny. They're all really uncomfortable. They're all funny. And I wish I could have seen this with a TIFF audience, because there were there were like a couple people in the theater. It wasn't exactly like a huge release that like a lot of people were just getting out of their homes to go see. And I feel like the experience of the film and the type of comedy that it was would have benefited a lot more from having just like a big audience and like more laughs, because there's some things that are really there's almost like weird subtle jokes that I feel would have been more appreciated in a bigger audience, like just moments where Jesse Plemons has that like comically oversized jug of water that he's just like refilling a water bottle. Like I found that amusing. I would have loved for there to be a bit more like of a crowd reaction in my theater to something like that. Also, we saw it in Pittsburgh, and people there are fucking weird.
Okay, let's talk about that for the next 20 minutes.
Yeah, people in Pittsburgh are really weird.
I feel like I need to qualify that slightly. Like what?
Oh, we were at a furry convention. We were at the largest furry convention.
But what was weird about the screening compared to a different screening in a different state, perhaps?
Just the people.
Just the crowd.
A bit vacant, were they?
They were laughing at the like weird parts that I don't know how to describe it. Some of them were like a little like talky as well, like at points.
The one I often get is where like there's a really corny bad comedy trailer that plays before the movie, and that's when everyone's like in a riot of laughter. But then during the weird film, like it's just complete silence.
Well, you're speaking from a UK perspective, and I know that you experience that a lot.
Oh, constantly, yeah. Gogglebox syndrome, yeah.
There's one woman that I don't know if maybe only I could hear, but she kept. It wasn't like she was loudly yawning. It's not like she was going like, oh, but she was loud enough, like, that I kept hearing her. I was like, damn, stop it. Because yawning's like a little contagious.
That's annoying.
Yeah, so I was swallowing my yawns. I was like doing the,
oh God.
Just to like,
even you doing that fake yawn right now is make me feel like I have a yawn.
I know, right? It's contagious.
It's powerful.
It's contagious.
I didn't hear her in the theater, but I was just the only thing that was distracting me was there was this kind of buzzing sound in the theater the entire time. And so like when the movie was supposed to be silent, like especially when like which are usually some of the most like, you know, powerful moments is when like there's complete silence. I always hears this like this buzzing in the back, kind of like, oh damn. It's interesting because like it makes sense to talk about the film viewing experience, as in like actually sitting down and like the room that you're in, the crowd, the like all that stuff. Like I feel like that doesn't get talked about a lot. Usually talk about like how do you think of the film, but obviously like the experience changes your perception of the film and how much you enjoyed it. I find it weird that people don't talk about it more.
Yeah, which is again why I feel like I would have loved to see this at TIFF. Because I feel like TIFF is oftentimes my ideal viewing experience for something not at home. Like a great audience, everybody's engaged and like is there to see the movie. And each theater, like the system and the sound and like especially the larger like premiere events, like it's the ideal movie going experience for me is like a good TIFF audience. But yeah, the audience wasn't terrible or anything. It was just like I wish there was a bit more liveliness for this type of film. The dark comedy.
I was more surprised they were even showing it as widely as they did anyway. Like loads of my local cinemas were playing it. It's like, wow, you normally don't play the 3-hour long weird Lanthimos movies. This is interesting. But I don't think it's like huge or anything, but
It's just literally just because the same crew like got all those Oscar noms and wins. And it's like, okay, there's a little bit of buzz after that. So you get to do whatever the fuck you want. It's like the Coen brothers making A Serious Man right after No Country. And they're like, you know, we can just, we have the flexibility now. And
it's definitely not connecting like a Poor Things or something like that. It's just way more obtuse and more kind of like his older stuff like Dogtooth or... You know, where it's less colorful. It's more kind of blatantly weird and freaky and uncomfortable, which obviously is, you're asking a lot when it's like 3 hours. And I don't know if the average person is going to be into that kind of experience. Whereas, you know, I obviously do value that more.
Yeah, I love Lanthimos and I gravitate a lot towards his work and his style in general, even though this one wasn't as heavy on a lot of the stylistic choices that I really like about him. But his whole, like, I don't know, like kind of shitposty nature of this film, I found very amusing. I would call this his probably most inaccessible film.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I would say so.
Like in terms of like general audiences, like this one, and people, there's a lot of people that just like absolutely hate Killing of a Sacred Deer for some reason. But this one, I just don't see a lot of people being as... Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah, I don't... There's not a lot of people that are going to be like enthusiastic about this film.
Yeah.
You know, it's weird because I didn't really love Killing of a Sacred Deer.
I didn't either.
The shorter...
I did.
Well, yes. It's funny because if Killing of a Sacred Deer was a short story, like one of these, like a 40-minute thing, I think I would have really liked it. I think for me, it just kind of dragged, which is weird to say because it was a much shorter film. For me, I'm like, man, like it's just so abstract and draggy and supernatural and what's going on and okay. Like it just, I don't know. And to be fair, it was my first year ago, so I wasn't kind of ready for the experience. Maybe on a second watch, I'd have a different experience of it. But I think going into this, I already kind of understood what Yorgos, some of the stuff that he was doing, and so I feel like I was, and it was nice and short, like they were short stories, so I was actually kind of, it helped with my engagement a lot because I was like just ready to like put something behind me and move on to the next thing.
Yeah, it's not a huge commitment per story.
Yeah,
which is nice.
But that's almost what bugs me about it, is that it's like I could see the full potential for each one of these, to be honest, to be fleshed out into a full 90-minute, 2-hour long feature. It almost seems wasteful to kind of condense them and chuck them into one movie that I'm less likely to revisit now. Whereas if that first segment was a 90-minute movie, I'd much more likely revisit that, you know, or even though they do have these links and there are these kind of plot elements that do overlap and there is a lot of thought put into that packaging, man, it just, that runtime, I've once we get into that 3-hour mark, I need to really be in love with it for me to not get frustrated.
I hear you, but I feel like this is a film that I'll enjoy more on my second watch. Not to say I didn't enjoy it on my first, but I feel like I'm going to get more out of this on my second watch, especially with the context of like where each story goes and like the pacing of each story and what ultimately happens within each story.
That does change it, to be fair. 'Cause
having like the correct expectations set.
Yeah, and those first two stories, especially compared to that third one, it really simple, easy to understand, strong hooks really quickly in the story. Like this weird warped power dynamic in that first one that's kind of immediately intriguing. You got those performances there. And then the missing wife returning and something being off is another like really strong hook. Whereas I felt like they just needed so much more explaining in that third story to make this.
I was so confused in the third story for a long time.
Yeah. It's like, oh, did I miss something? And I didn't have subtitles either, so I had to. That always adds another element of like trying to decipher it. But that did hurt like the flow of it. Even though I did like, I think the third one actually had the strongest ending and the way it came together. But man, yeah, getting moving again it must be like 2 hours, 10 minutes when that third one begins. And I'm like, like everything in my body kind of just wants to leave now. I feel like I've got my taste of like these two awesome stories, these great, memorable characters and warped performances and that uncomfortable feeling that I like getting from the best length in most movies. But man, yeah, it just feels like putting the brakes on and having to start again. It's like going up a hill 3 times and having to go through that experience. And that's definitely on me. That anthology problem is just a recurring thing. There are very few that don't bug me in this way, because all it takes is for one, you know? Even if like you love every segment in a VHS, if there's just one, it's like something about this. Or the best example for me is recently The French Dispatch, where there's one of those segments is so like beautiful. It's so amazing. The artist in jail sequence, but I feel like it's stuck in this movie that I just don't really care about otherwise. Just this one standout segment.
Take it out. Just take it out and watch that one segment.
Exactly, yeah. Which I suppose you can do, but it just feels disappointing when it's like it is packaged and presented as a film.
So for that film, are the segments like connected in any way, or are they very much extremely separate?
Yeah, it's very loose. It's just like, it's different newspaper stories, and that's the thing that is linking it. Yeah.
So what do you guys think of like the kind of the main linking thing here, which is just this RMF character? The one thing I was trying to think about is like, what's actually the chronology of these stories, right? It doesn't make sense for him, because it doesn't make sense for him to die in the first one and then be flying in the second one and then be dead in the third one. It almost feels like the second one should be chronologically first, and then he dies, and then he comes back to life. Like,
I don't even know.
I'm trying to figure out, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to figure out like the chronology of it.
If it's even as literal as that, it's hard to unpick some of these things with his films.
Yeah, that's part of the me wanting to watch it for a second time is to maybe understand it a bit better. But we'll see, because I mean, like it's a film that is not. It's not meaningful, but it's not explicitly meaningful. In order to get more of like a solid meaning out of it, I think I'm just going to have to watch it a second time. And what I did get out of it in terms of, the filmmaking and the acting and the comedy and the music, I really loved. There's some great editing choices, and just like I had fun with it, and I love how shitposty it is. So I don't necessarily need too much of a deeper meaning, although I'm sure there's something there. This is the type of film where there's something lingering for me. It's not forgettable, and there's something about it that makes me want to explore it further, which is a good sign.
When you say shitposty, do you mean like that warped sense of humor that, I don't know, there is like a dark comedy underlying a lot of his films, and it's no different here. Is that kind of what you're getting at with the...
I mean, shitposty is in like sometimes deliberately like unsatisfying.
It's like pedantic
in ways. Yeah. Like with the abrupt nature of how some of these sequences end, and like the tie-ins of RMF, or like the fact that these entire sequences are titled RMF blank or whatever, or
eats a sandwich or whatever,
and then it doesn't really have to do with them, and then like an entire story happens, and, and then it's just like, oh, okay, well, here's RMF again.
It is quite like a pedantic framing.
there's
like
a couple
that.
of these like kind of shitposty moments, right? Like in the end of the first one when Margaret Qualley's playing the piano and is singing that like terrible song, and then in the third one, obviously very similar, where when she finds the woman she's looking for, it just cuts to her like just dancing with this kind of inappropriate music.
Yeah.
Those are like shitposty moments, but honestly, like for me, it's just like, okay, this is just his style. I'm like, he's just doing his thing. Like I don't want to take it personally, I don't want to feel like he's literally trolling me. I'm like, no, it's fine. I'll interpret it. It's your art. It's fine.
He's less trolly than Von Trier, but he's like in the same direction, kind of
similar ballpark.
Yeah. Where he's like it's almost just like the playing on audiences' expectations and getting a laugh out of like what you're showing people to a degree.
And even though the actors in here, these characters tend to do a lot of sort of warped, often kind of sexually perverse or something disturbing going on with them. They always give off the vibe in these Lanthimos movies that they're having a lot of fun with the performance, with what they're allowed to do. It is a freeing bunch of characters that this group of actors gets to play. Yeah. And that does keep it, That's one of the more interesting things to me about this as an anthology, where it's like, okay, that does set it apart compared to other anthologies I have seen where it is the same group of actors and that extra effort you have to put into these three distinct characters with the same actor. And Jesse Plemons, and Emma Stone, all of them, to be honest, are on fire at the moment.
Yeah.
They're just on like a string of these amazing performances every year. And this is no different.
I'm liking Jesse Plemons more and more each time I see him.
Yeah, he can just come in and steal a movie. Like he did that with Civil War. Like there's something special about him for sure.
Yeah, it's a really great cast, and I also really appreciate about Lanthimos just how each of his films, although there are similarities and things that he does somewhat consistently. Like, this is a very different approach than The Favorite. This is still a different approach.
Oh, yeah.
From Killing of a Sacred Deer, a very different approach from Poor Things.
You mean like directorially?
Who, what?
Do you mean like directorially? Like as in like just the way it's like just the general...
I mean, like even the way that characters talk. Like the approach for like how you're
right.
setting the tone and the consistency of how things are communicated. So in this film, he kind of brings back his older Lanthimos way of characters talking, where people are almost kind of saying like NPC dialogue, but not as heavy as aggro drift or something, where it's like, okay, you can tell that it's an intentional choice and it's not bad writing, especially given his entire filmography. When he's able to do something like The Favorite, it's like, okay, yeah, this is a choice. And it brings this sort of almost like otherworldly or like
fantastical,
not quite real, just like I don't know what the word is, uncanny valley or like dreamlike kind of presentation in terms of just character dialogue.
It just makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah. There's something really off-putting about the way that characters interact with each other, but it's consistent.
Yeah.
And I like that consistency, and that's something that's really interesting and difficult to pull off in terms of like writing and overall presentation.
Would you say the style of speaking is as extreme? It's been a while since I've seen The Lobster or Sacred Deer, because I remember that being like one of the elements that I understand a little bit more if someone says like, why are they speaking like that? why do they sound like that? It didn't strike me in Kinds of Kindness that it was like on the level as The Lobster, as far as that like obtuse, weird presentational style. It is there. But I
mean, it's definitely present in this film for sure.
Yeah, I guess it just feels so kind of stripped back compared to that almost whiplash of Poor Things, which is so so like exaggerated and over the top. There is like
I think the first story had very, very stilted dialogue. And I think like the combination of the stilted dialogue with the soundtrack, like the kind of very sort of start and stop, weird pianos. I thought the choir sequences were just just so beautiful, but like it's so like off-putting with the stilted dialogue. I feel like it just it really set the tone of the film. And so it was going into the second and third stories, it was still unusual, but instead of it being the dialogue as much, it was just kind of the sequence of events that was just started getting kind of really unusual with the traffic stop and like just like the inviting them over for dinner and then they want to watch porn together, like their own porn. Like it's just like the sequence gets really kind of unusual, and the dialogue starts normalizing a bit, but it definitely like just it's hard to get over that initial hump from the first story where it just everyone's talking. It feels like very weird the entire time.
Mm-hmm. And I think part of that is also helped by the conversations that they're having. they're literally being NPCs. Like his life is being controlled by someone else. Like he has like a list of things he's doing, and then the demands from Willem Dafoe, like the just seeing them talk to each other in this like absolutely bizarre, weird dynamic.
Yeah, it doesn't even feel real.
Yeah.
It's like, so psycho.
Yeah, there's something about it that's really fun.
But that presentation really accentuates that paranoia that main character's feeling, and it puts you right there with him, like this off-kilter music that's making you shift on your seat. These weird characters and this level of control that Willem Dafoe is like enacting. It's like, how far does this go? You're making me feel like conspiratorial with like how you're presenting this.
Yeah, you feel like you're in on it.
Yeah, I absolutely loved that first one. Exactly, yeah. And you're just like as lost as that lead character because he's trying to figure out what is going on.
Yeah. Each of these segments also has like a very satisfying, like kind of gory payoff too, which is fun. Like there's always something that builds up in a ridiculous kind of morbid, difficult to watch but fun way. And I really enjoy that about the film. And I think, unless you two have anything else to say about it, I think we can move on to the next film. But I really enjoyed this. It was super weird. Would love to see it again. Yeah, loved the general vibes of it. And although, sure, I feel some segments could have been trimmed down, and there's at least one that I feel could have been longer, I still there's something I want to get more out of from this film, and I feel like there's something there, and I would gladly watch this again, and I'm giving it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm slightly below you. I mostly agree with what you're saying. Each one of these segments is high quality. I could see each one as its own feature. It's just the level of writing that I think Lanthimos, that what perspective he has, taken these familiar concepts but exaggerating them to such an unhinged degree that you can't help but like just watch the insanity. It's just, for me, yeah, I love each section independently. It's just, as a whole, doesn't fully work for me, especially when you look at his catalogue, and that does make me lean towards more like, oh, I'll put it on Dogtooth instead then, or I just don't want to have just one section of this anthology stand out so much to me, but enjoyed it otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's begging to be interpreted, which is kind of fun. Like, I just love movies like this where it feels like you can just keep chewing on it. I guess, kept looking for meaning everywhere, and it was just a fun experience to do that. And I feel like there is a lot of intentionality in the choices that were made. I don't think like the shitposting nature of it doesn't make it so like random, if you see what I'm saying. Like I think I don't think it's like a coincidence that all three stories feature like an important mention of, or a dream sequence of some sort, where like the first one, he dreams of having that conversation with him outside the car, and then that conversation plays out pretty much the way that he dreams it. And then in the second one, she talks about her dream with Willem Dafoe about how, she dreamt that she was on an island where dogs ruled the world, and humans were like pets. And in the third one, the dream was important because it was the pool dream that made her find the woman that she's looking for. She was dreaming she was stuck at the bottom of a pool. I don't think that's like an accident that he kind of tried to incorporate something like that, just like he had the gore elements in all three. I don't know. I think the first story I liked the most in terms of the vibe. I thought the vibe was just perfect.
Same.
I love Willem Dafoe so much, and his performance is so good as this character. The second one, I really liked trying to understand what was going on, because I feel like I really liked Liz's character, like the fake Liz, I guess, if you want to call her that. I thought that she was very redeeming, and in a way, I want to think, like, I drew an interpretation of that where I feel like, I don't know if this is like, I don't know if there is a correct or incorrect interpretation of this, but the idea that, yeah, she's from this dog planet island, and she's just like a stray. Okay, she's like a stray dog that found. So, like, you know how, like, if you have two golden retrievers, they look like very similar from a distance. Like, okay, yeah, that's the same dog. But if you own a golden retriever, if it's your dog, you know that it's not your dog, right? If you lose your dog and another dog comes and you're like, that's not my dog, even though they look very similar to my dog. Yeah. And it feels like she's supposed to be like a dog, which is one of the reasons I like it. Like, she also is like extremely loyal, right? Like, whatever he tells her to do, she's like, yeah, I'll cut off my finger, I'll cut off my liver, right? It's just like there's something doggy about her, and I really like it. And the third one was just absurd, like this whole, like, the Chekhov's animal scale. You know, I just thought that was ridiculous. And just, again, Willem Dafoe had, you know, I just like Willem Dafoe, and so he got a lot more screen time in the first and third stories. The third one, he had this like weird eyeliner on, and it was just like so. Yeah, it's just fantastic. Really like that third story as well. Yeah, for me, the whole experience was great. Probably an 8 out of 10.
Awesome.
And
I just want to, you reminded me about the dream sequences. I fucking love in the first segment, he's like eating a sandwich and his dream like goes up right up to Willem Dafoe. Just this gigantic sandwich in his mouth, even though the scene plays out the exact same the second time he doesn't have the sandwich. But I love that little detail of like that tiny bit of dream logic, or that like insecurity in a dream. Like, I'm constantly having like vivid dreams, and there's always, you know, like, if there's something I feel like I have to do the next day, oftentimes it'll wind up in a dream. So I found that relatable in a way, but also just like the, why am I eating a sandwich, like, sort of thing. That was fun. Yeah. That was fun.
Do you think it was like random, or do you think like, because like in a way, like RMF eats a sandwich at the third one.
True.
He's also talking about how he's trying to gain weight, because Willem Dafoe wants him to gain weight. And he,
it was like part of his insecurity.
So it feels like there's even more intentionality to it than just like the randomness of a dream sequence.
Exactly. Like there's it's shitposty and like not, again, it's kind of making fun of the audience in a way, but it's not devoid of any meaning to take out of it. And I feel like this is definitely something that I got to watch a second time. So looking forward to it. Unfortunately, Fox Searchlight, so probably not going to get a 4K Blu-ray. Oops. But might not even get a physical release at all, honestly.
Well, that'd be like
Fox Searchlight.
It might just disappear. Yeah, they might just delete it from history.
Yeah, they might not even release it on Disney Plus. All right, there's a film that last episode I said might be Gaël's favorite movie, and then since then I remembered, oh yeah, Lord of the Rings Fellowship. Duh. So
it's my second favorite movie.
Second favorite movie.
Okay.
Koyaanisqatsi with 2 A's. And I have been wanting to talk about this for a while, and I figured it made the most sense to have Gaël here, since you've always had some great insight towards this film. It's one of your faves. Would you care to do like a little summary? Like, I don't know, just introduce the film.
Yeah, introduce it for us. Yeah, what's going on here?
Oh man, how do you introduce this movie? So this is, I guess, a visual documentary that was directed by, what was his name? Godfrey Reggio.
Yes.
That's it.
From 1982, so quite a while ago. Well, this day, yeah.
Almost 10 years ago.
And almost 10 whole years. And it's very difficult to describe this movie. There's no dialogue, but I wouldn't say that there's no narrative. There's kind of a narrative, and it's very kind of implied and suggested, but it's also left pretty open to interpretation. I watched it yesterday. I've seen it like many times. And I highly recommend, if you, after watching it the first time, that you watch it a second time while on substances. And Honestly, it's like I've now yesterday I watched it with my roommate Shay and Alexia, and we had some cannabis and it was high, and it's always such a wonderful experience when it's I don't know, it's kind of like Pink Floyd's The Wall. It's one of those movies where yes, you can watch it sober and enjoy it, but also when you watch it not sober, you can have such a fantastic time.
It's almost like a stoner concept, but made by filmmakers. You know, it's like something that you'd come up with while smoking dope or whatever. But it's like, hey, what if we actually took that to its logical conclusion and made a feature out of this kind of insane idea that is extremely experimental? Like, in 168 episodes of this podcast, have we spoken about a film that literally has no dialogue? It's like a 90-minute film. There is no dialogue.
Yeah, I guess this might be the first. Maybe.
Yeah. But it works. The effect is so unlike any other film. It's such a unique kind of emotional experience, just celebrating visuals and music and the combination and effect that the order just displaying these images can bring out of you and make you think about it. It gets like existential, it gets sad, it's happy, it takes you on this entire journey. And yeah, it does make you think. There's kind of like a corny tagline on Letterboxd when you go on this film that says, until now, you've never really seen the world you live in. And it's like, that's definitely what I was thinking about.
It's true.
It is true. It's very true.
And so I watched a bunch of the special features on the Criterion after I watched it this most recent time, and hearing the director, one of the things that really stuck out to me in terms of how he described the film is the approach of taking things that are normally in the background and presenting them as the foreground. And so not like literally like focally background, but conceptually background. So things like, like an entire city as the set is things that would be the setting of a film where traditionally you would have like a narrative and a story and like a main character to focus on. But no, it's just the background. It's just the setting. And then also, especially the music, which traditionally, and in so many movies, and I realize that this is one of my biggest criticisms with a lot of movies in terms of how music is used, is that a lot of the time it's used as a crutch. It's used to manipulate in ways where it's like, okay, we're, characters dying, we're going to do those like 3 piano notes in this really cliched way to try and emphasize something else that's already taking place and either add to the emotion of a scene or sometimes even insist an emotion of a scene. Whereas in this case, the music is the star. It's like the only audio you're really getting.
It is the voice.
It's the music is the narrative. And having a composer like Philip Glass that before this point didn't really do movies before this point, I thought that it was a perfect choice to have his composition and the way that he orchestrated it with such intensity and such range and such power, and something that really stuck out to me on this watch in particular was the way that each visual matched the music in very subtle kind of ways, where you look at like the power lines.
Oh man, that was all. I was going to bring that up.
And somehow Philip Glass created a sound that kind of sounds like electricity buzzing, but not so explicitly where it's like, okay, that's a sound effect, but in a way where it's like, okay, you're translating this to an actual musical composition into a score where it still sounds like a score. And if you removed the visual, maybe that connection wouldn't be there. But seeing the visual and hearing the audio, it's like, oh yeah, this is the sound of the electrical towers.
Yeah, they're screaming. It's the sound of them screaming, right? It's just like that's what it sounds. That's the organ, I think, that was playing on top of that sequence. It's funny that you mentioned the music as well, because I was obviously talking with Shay about it yesterday, and he talked to me about how he conceived of this movie not as a film, but as a piece of classical music. Because like a piece of classical music, you kind of follow it emotionally. You follow the beats, and that's kind of how you experience the movie. You experience it as a piece of classical music specifically. And then obviously the the visuals kind of accompany the piece, and he that's how he enjoys like watching or experiencing the movie, which I think is fascinating.
Yeah, that's totally valid.
It's like a big music video.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I assume the music must have been composed first and then sort of edited to it, because it just flows too well.
They talked about that.
Oh yeah, what did they say about that?
So there was, depending on the scene, there were visuals that existed, and then Philip Glass composed for a lot of those visuals, and then the director basically re-edited the film, sometimes not, sometimes completely changing what Philip Glass had composed over, and other times just like making the timing more succinct. But basically, yeah, so it was both basically. So visuals, then music, and then visuals again was the order. So just a re-edit. Yeah,
that makes sense. Actually,
that does make sense. Yeah,
it's the synchronicity is so staggering in some of these sequences, and I was thinking about it logistically. And one of the ways that I think he does it logistically, and I, obviously I could be wrong, but there's a lot of use of slow-mo and a lot of use of time-lapse footage, right? And they try to splice them together in really often very like beautiful sequences where you're seeing something in slow motion and then something really quickly, and they look like they're moving at the same speed with the music, because the music's not kind of really changing. You're just feeling different subdivisions of the music. But the editing choice that had to be made for every single time-lapse and every single slow-mo, but especially the time-lapse where you speed them up, was just how much you're speeding it up. Because you can, so there was like, they had to really fine-tune the speed on some of those fast sequences, and I feel like they definitely did that to achieve the synchronicity. One of the shots that I'm thinking of is the factory line where they're making, I guess, those Twinkies, where like you get that little red like paste, and then it kind of closes the pastry on top of it. You know what I'm talking about? That one is that was one of my favorite synchronized pieces, and I feel like it must be cheated. Like he must have like changed the speed of it just so slightly, fine-tuned it so that it would perfectly line up.
Perhaps.
Right? Like, and I'm not saying like that's a bad thing. I feel like logistically, I can't think of any other way he could have gotten such a consistent synchronicity out of the visuals and the music throughout the entire movie from start to finish.
It is a film where you want to have like the final say being within the editing, particularly in order to achieve that synchronicity. And yeah, watching it this time, I was reminded of, I had like this huge section of my Lion King Part 1 where I talked about the stampede scene, where it's like, okay, there's musical cues for each visual, and this is how you have like an actual cinematic experience using music and editing and filmmaking in general, and they're all being used together to create one single experience. And this is like an example of that, where so many moments in this film, there'll be like a higher intensity part of the music, or the music will change into a different section of the overall score, and you'll get like a really hard cut into like a different setting, or like a completely different visual, just to match the music, or the music to match the visual. They're both existing with each other, and they're both helping each other to exist and get that experience.
And it somehow avoids being tiring or irritating after a while.
Even though there is a lot of repetition.
There's a lot of repetition, and there's, at its peak, it's actually, I wrote down, distressingly awe-inspiring.
Yes.
Where like it's kind of designed to be overwhelming. And that's part of the power of it, is like just showing you these visuals of our world. They're stripped back. It's just these empty open landscapes, especially in that kind of first act. It's like, wow, you're kind of just forcing me to confront this in a really like minimalistic, stripped back way. And it
very raw,
very raw and punchy as a result. But I guess, another thing I find interesting about this, the structure of this is like, what separates it from, people joke about it saying it's like a string of establishing shots like put together, or like it's it's like my Apple TV background slideshow. there's so much more intent.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. It's the intentionality.
Exactly, and there's like these quite. I think it's actually saying a hell of a lot, despite this lack of language. Like it's a visual language that we're totally indulging in here. Like, yeah, there is like a loose 3-act kind of structure going on, with the first act kind of being more the stripped back, just beauty and scale of the untouched world without the impact of humanity, and it kind of shifts more into these big like cityscapes and industry, and the feeding into the accelerationism kind of idea with these time lapses, with industry taking over, and pointing at the title Koyaanisqatsi being life out of balance, and the idea being that's kind of what it's illustrating, is this as you shift into the third act, and it's more about like the future and technology, and the crossover of a cityscape from above kind of looks like a circuit or a microchip, and there is all this like crossover with these visuals and going from the big and the small, and the fear of the future and the hope of the future, and all this like complicated existentialism that comes from all of these ideas, and like packaging it this way, man, that is a powerful, unique experience.
Yeah. I feel like the most important ideas in films, or the ones that have felt the most important to me, are ones that are presented in ways where it's not explicitly telling me something, but it's presenting itself in a way where I'm forced to, or that I'm able to engage with it and think of these ideas for myself in a way where it's like, oh, you're showing me a different perspective, and we're taking a step back and looking at something in a way that we wouldn't normally look at it, but it's something that's around us, that we're aware is around us. Like, we're aware of, how many people there are on the planet, and just how ingrained technology is within our lives, but showing it in this way where it's like, oh yeah, like we are literally we are a part of a machine. We are the meat on the conveyor belt going up the escalator, and taking a step back and not focusing on any individual characters, but showing us as like humanity as a whole. And especially the choice of showing it with such intensity and speed and repetition, just making us look like fucking ants, or the impersonal nature of it just really helps drive home the point of exactly what the hell society is, and what we're doing, and our effect on the planet, and et cetera, et cetera. Like yeah,
it makes you feel small. Yeah, it feels like it's holding up a mirror. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah,
look what we've done, is basically saying, like, look at this. Look at what you've done.
This is you.
Yeah,
that's you. You're meat.
It's interesting because in a way it's they open it up to interpretation. Like, it's almost the most interpretable movie, but obviously it's not, because you can't like draw an interpretation of like The Wizard of Oz or something out of this film. But it's a kind of this, you're able to interpret it very kind of infinitely, but in a aimed scope. It's only aimed in kind of one direction. And obviously, so I was pretty high yesterday, and I had I just really enjoyed this movie, and I have like kind of my kind of itching weird latest interpretation. So if you'll indulge me,
please,
let's go, let's do it.
So obviously the movie opens with, first of all, these kind of cave paintings of human beings, which kind of look like little rectangles, right? It's like little rectangles with a little like head on it. And then you get the Saturn V rocket launch and the beginning sequence kind of in a very ominous way. Like, we don't really know where it's going. At that point, we haven't experienced the rest of the movie, so we don't really understand what it's going to. Is it going to be a space movie? Like, I don't know. And then you cut straight to the canyons, like this kind of weird canyon sequence where we just get a look at the Earth, just the Earth, like how it exists, terraformed, weird structures, with mountains and mountain ranges and things like that. And then you get images of like the ocean and like the seas, bodies of water, and then you get this beautiful cloud sequence, right? So all these sequences are so, first of all, just gorgeous. Like I'm comes to mind like the glittering of the ocean, like that particular shot was so trippy. And then you see how they all interact with the Earth. You see like this island in the middle of the ocean, right? Like kind of untouched, and then you see like the clouds pushing into the mountains, also interacting with the Earth. It's like, okay, that's kind of interesting. And then you start getting like the introduction of life. How I love how it starts super barren in these kind of badlands in America where there's no greenery and nothing, and then eventually you start getting a little bit of greenery. Like it's the same badlands, but you get these kind of like trees, and then eventually you get a little bit of life. You get these caves with insects in them. It's the only other wildlife that we get is like these kind of insects and birds that we see in the caves in the movie. And then it introduces humanity, and the way it introduces us, I thought, is so good, because it starts with like basically like an energy worker, like a power plant worker, a miner of some sort. And what are we doing? We're exploding the Earth. We're just like blowing it up, and then it shows so like the Earth itself, and then it shows dams. Like we're building dams and like evaporating stations, like ponds and things like that. We're controlling the Earth. We're controlling the water, and then obviously the nuclear bombs and like the factories pushing smog in the air, we're also controlling the air. So it feels like there's kind of like a poetry to it. It's showing us, and then with the way it like pans over these cars, like the car lot at the very beginning, the cars are also just little rectangles, just like those cave paintings, just like little rectangles arranged in rows. And then it cuts to the tanks, and the tanks are all just little rectangles. The shot of the plane, one of honestly the most insane shots, just the plane on the runway taxiing. And then the way it gets reincorporated with the air, like the military aircrafts that are also taxiing after that tank sequence. It looks like, because they're not showing us that we're fighting each other, it looks like we're just fighting the Earth. Like we're just doing bomb tests and stuff. We're dropping bombs and shit to test them. But it looks like we're just attacking the Earth. That it was just so it kind of like the antagonist of the movie gets introduced early in the form of human beings, and then you get this sequence where we start seeing our cities after obviously the electric pylon sequence is so cool. And the cities are just like this brutalist architecture, or like that's all abandoned. So you get, again, just massive rectangles, just massive rectangular buildings with little rectangular windows in them getting demolished. And then you get the kind of the new rectangles, the glass, the microdata building, the big glass ones, the business. And it's weird to me, and I don't know why this is the first time that I saw this, movie where I feel, I don't know, and this is definitely a high thought, but I was like, man, there's a lot of emphasis on rectangles. Like even the title sequence, like the very first thing you see in the movie is just a string of rectangles that end up bleeding into the title. The Koyaanisqatsi just starts as just a string of little rectangles, right? And even going into like the building sequences, the microchips, the streets are laid in kind of this grid, 90 degrees formats. Even the conveyor belts with the hot dogs, the Twinkies, they're all just little squares. We're just little rectangles controlling smaller rectangles, living in big rectangles. And it's just like, we just love these patterns. And it's just like, it's so different and starkly different from like the landscape and the oceans and the clouds that are so amorphous in the beginning of the movie. We're imposing the patterns.
We've like organized our society.
And almost feels like the buildings are my favorite part of the movie. It's just all of the building sequences, the microchips, the way it compares them, because it feels like if I was an alien watching this movie and watching it as a documentary, it feels like the buildings themselves are the organism. They are the creature. They're the biggest thing. They take up the most. The humans are just like blood vessels. We're just little, mitochondria that are floating around and making the buildings work. But the buildings are the real creatures, right? It's just it's weird for me to. Obviously, this is like a very.
It's a part of us.
Yeah. It makes you think of like insects or like evoking something that would normally be tiny, like a beehive or something, but it's enormous and like making these connections at different scales, and it's like, oh yeah, we are so small, and everything is like linked in these ways, and you do start sounding very kind of stonery, but like that's the power of it, and it's funny reading about like the way people talk about this movie and some of the reviews from the 80s and whatnot. Like, I don't know, I saw one that was like a meditation aid, I think Roger Ebert described it as, and there's definitely some truth to that. And when you hear things like it's a tone poem and these sorts of things, I don't know. So I just got like this sinking feeling of this is gonna like annoy me. It's like, because sometimes, you know, when people talk about these like big kind of heady concepts, it's like this is like changing narratives, like that kind of thing. But it does deliver. But I found, I guess that Adam got me a version of this movie that, and this is a part of a trilogy, from what I understand. But it was Koyaanisqatsi and Koyaanisqatsi, which was the '88 film by Reggio that came out. I did check that out today, actually.
Oh, nice.
And had pretty much like the inverse experience.
Oh, no. Yeah, I've heard they're not as good.
It was, I appreciated watching it just for how much it made me appreciate Koyaanisqatsi more, for like how that comes together. But yeah, this one I saw, the one from '88, it really did not come together for me. And I was like drifting out of like interest, and I saw what it was going for. I really did. It's kind of like it's supposed to go hand in hand with Koyaanisqatsi, as far as like, this is like life out of balance, and this is America, and there's this real focus on America and industry. Let's kind of flip that on its head. Let's have a look what's going on in Africa, South America, India, and focus on that kind of thing. But it just lacks that kind of structure that Koyaanisqatsi has, and that even though we're talking about how there is no dialogue, there is this kind of feel to it. You feel like, even though there aren't people talking, there aren't characters even, 15 minutes will pass and then you'll have this feeling like, oh, that was like a great scene. That was a great sequence. I feel like the energy is shifting into like the next section of this movie. I just wasn't really getting that from this one in '88. But I am more curious about Ron Frick, right? He kind of splintered off and made his own, the cinematographer for Koyaanisqatsi and the others. I haven't seen Samsara or Baraka. Have you guys seen that? It seems like
Samsara is good, but again, like it's the intentionality is not as there.
Really? Okay.
In terms of messaging and you know,
the cohesiveness of it.
Yeah. In terms of like an overall point of like the film existing, it's not there. Samsara is really good though. It's just not. It's not Koyaanisqatsi.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Samsara. I feel like it's trying to be Koyaanisqatsi in like 2011 or whenever it came out. And so, but it's trying to be more like, I don't want to say relevant, just more accessible. Is that even like fair to say about it?
Like it, yeah.
It's trying to be beautiful. It's trying to be like a ballet, like the same way that Koyaanisqatsi is just kind of unbelievably well choreographed thing, but it lacks that same like narrative direction. I feel like the way that Koyaanisqatsi just has this unbelievable focus, despite its wide scope. But still, I really enjoyed Samsara. I definitely recommend it.
So it does seem like a concept that's been played with a few times, but is specifically worked out in 1982 for Koyaanisqatsi.
82,
sorry. Yeah, because the 88 one, Koyaanisqatsi, it was just doing stuff that was like, man, if you did this in Koyaanisqatsi, you would have kind of ruined it, you know? There's like a whole sequence where, after showing all of this footage from Nepal, Egypt, and whatnot, it then kind of goes into this corny, like, montage of like ads from America, and then it's like morphing into like military footage, and it just seems like way too on the nose and obvious compared to what they're doing in Koyaanisqatsi. And it was just kind of reminding me of growing up, like going into London and going to these like weird experimental art installations in the Tate Modern or whatever, and the one from '88 is the kind of thing where I'd watch for like 10 minutes and be like, oh, that's kind of interesting, and like read the blurb on the wall and be like, cool, then forget about it. But Koyaanisqatsi is one where you'd be like, oh, I need a copy of this, and I'm gonna be thinking about this, I'm gonna be revisiting this, I'm gonna be watching this. This is gonna stay with me. It feels like a strong artistic statement. Yeah,
much more like engaging and artful and intentional. It's especially listening to the director talk about it on the special features. It's pretty clear that he had very strong feelings about how things needed to be, and then Ron Fricke, I believe, did most of like the visuals, but Godfrey Reggio was essentially saying like, okay, here's what I want to show, and here's what I want to be felt by showing this, and then Ron Fricke would, do the logistical like filmmaking aspect of it.
Yeah, no, because I find that interesting how they like specify in the credits and whatnot, like writers written, even though there's no dialogue. I would love to see like what was written down as far as like organizing the ideas of what they wanted this to be, what it was becoming. I'm sure there's lots of like interesting notebooks from how this was put together out there somewhere.
Was this your first watch of this, Alex?
I had never seen this before. I kind of absorbed parts of it through osmosis, and that I just knew a bunch of this Philip Glass music already, I guess because it's just so famous, and like did like the Truman Show. There's randomly in I think Watchmen uses a song from Koyaanisqatsi.
Weird.
Like the Philip Glass song in one of the sequences. So that was like, oh, I already know this. This is weird. But yeah, it did hit, I feel like, in the way I think it's intended. And yeah, I just love being shown something new. It's like a concept that's like, yeah, we're proving that this was a good high concept thing, and we're bringing it to you, proving it.
Did you have any like kind of favorite shots from the film? Because I feel like from a cinematography perspective, it's unbelievable. Like I feel like the film's just gorgeous.
Oh, it's like completely overwhelming visually as well as that music. That shot you mentioned of the plane with the like heat warping it,
taxiing,
incredible. Yeah. That's insane.
The way they play with perspective there, it's so trippy, honestly.
Yeah, there's not like a single bad shot really in the entire movie. In fact, and just thinking about like I think Adam mentioned the sausage cutting to the elevator famous shot.
Yeah.
That choice to make that cut. There must be so many examples of this kind of visual storytelling going on that I didn't even notice on the first place. That there must be so much intent to that kind of thing. It's like, oh man, you are so overwhelmed, you kind of need a bit of time to process and revisit it another day, or maybe a different substance. I'm sure like you could have a different experience just depending on the substance and have a different takeaway.
Oh, please. I bet, listen, definitely I don't know if you indulge in substances, but do something and watch it. You're going to get some friends together and talk about it. It's fantastic. It's such a good experience.
You could start like a podcast called like Koyaanisqatsi on any drug and just like do every drug. Like today we're doing mescaline. All right, now we're doing ketamine. All right, just see how your interpretation changes. Like what your experience like.
Dude, honestly a good concept for a short podcast with like a few episodes. It really does have such a wide like scope for interpretation. You really can draw like a lot from it. I feel like I've had so many different experiences with this movie where I've felt different things, and like sometimes I like and I have sympathy for the way humans are portrayed, because in a way it's very sincere.
Yeah,
like there is, yes, it's impersonal in the sense that we're seeing us from a very like wide perspective, but then there are these kind of personal moments where it's just like, well, who are these little rectangles that are walking around, and what happens when you like, it feels like the camera is as a character, like you can't escape the camera, you can't pretend, like it's not pretending that it's not there, right?
There's something objective about it.
Yeah, the characters notice the camera and like they react to it, and that's that part of the choice that's kept. And obviously one of the most profound moments was at the end as you get to this, because when you're looking at human beings, like yes, you look at consumer culture and capitalism and the work grind and then entertainment, there's a lot of focus on games, there's the bowling, the arcade, watching movies, right? There's a lot of focus on what we do with our spare time. And then the depression, you see like the squalor, and you see death depicted in a lot of different ways. Well, obviously one of them in the more kind of redeeming ways, the hand that's just kind of floating in the air, that's shaking, and it's there for what feels like forever until another hand comes and kind of grabs it, and it's like extremely touching with the way the music plays into that. And it's like, oh, okay, so we kind of like care for each other a little bit. And it's similar to the other sequence where they're picking the guy off the street and putting him in the gurney, but except for that one there's no like there's no emotion. There's no emotion to we're helping you feel better. It's just like, oh, this is one of the ants has lost their way. One of the ants has given up or isn't like working as part of it. We just have to clean it up. We just put it up and we move them out of the way, right? We clean up our dead. It's because, you know, the building has to live. It has to, you know, it's weird thinking of it that way, but I do feel like it tries to be somewhat redeeming in some cases when you look at it very, very closely.
The director talked about this because he's aware that there are like different interpretations. He said that he wanted to make sure that it wasn't explicitly like, oh yeah, we're saying that this is bad or anything like that, because some people would go up to him and come away with the interpretation that, you know, it's a celebration of technology and industrialism and all that. And, you know, a lot of the music and a lot of the sequences, there is some sort of beauty to how things are being shown, and there is some sort of sense of like human achievement, and it's not all completely bleak and like, look what you've done, you know, newspaper on the head or whatever. And the way he described it was he was trying to show, you know, the beast and the beauty. He called it the beauty of the beast, which is a really interesting way of putting it. And I definitely see what he was going for there.
Yeah, there's an observation I can't take credit for that I did read when I was reading about this movie. Someone was making comparisons to Blade Runner, which also came out in the 80s and has similar themes, these like industrial themes and this dystopian kind of aesthetic, but there's also this weird like yearning for that. They almost unintentionally like nailed this dystopian aesthetic to such a degree that it's almost like more beautiful than anything that is real, you know? Like we're being shown this dystopia, we could interpret it that way in this movie. Like the level of industry, the level of, as Gaël put it, like exploding the earth and like this trepidatious relationship with it. But I don't know, the fact it doesn't feel so like emotionally charged and you can make your mind up is the strength it has. Like to me, it just feels kind of more like it's saying, look at this, look at the awe of this. There's nothing you can do to stop this. That's kind of like what I take away from it, and some kind of acceptance from that. Because like, what are you going to do? I mean, like, you're so overwhelmed by it does make you feel so small, and like it makes you appreciate the part you play in all of this. Yeah,
like technology is completely in our lives to the point where we don't even notice it.
And yeah, it is scary and it is big and frightening, and we don't know where it's going. But there is also something kind of like exciting and inspiring about that. It's like, yeah, this is kind of crazy. We did do this. Like, look at this.
Oopsie.
This is completely mad that we're this acceleration is this. You don't need words to explain what we're looking at right here. Yeah.
So before he created this film, he was a part of a campaign where they had a bunch of TV spots, radio ads. They published a book, got a lot of newspaper ads, and it was funded by, I forget which organization. But he was actually, this is crazy, it was like 1974 or something. And the explicit purpose of this campaign was to raise awareness of of technology basically coming into our lives, and explicitly about privacy rights. And like in the 70s, he's talking about this and evoking, I guess, you know, like the concepts in 1984, and kind of just seeing the direction where things were headed, and things like, you know, credit reports and social security numbers, and just all these ways that people are now being tracked and monitored and, you know, categorized. And I found that really interesting that, you know, conceptually that they were aware of these sorts of things like well before they were
pre-internet.
Yeah, but pre-widespread computer usage,
mass surveillance.
Yeah. Like, but now it's like a part of the conversation where like everybody's heard the conversation. Everybody knows about, you know, just how their privacy doesn't even exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would love like a documentary that explored, like I would love like a concept for a documentary where all the footage is through like a surveillance technology. Like it's not everything's captured through something that naturally just exists. Like you can make this movie today with like CCTV cameras. You can just not like exactly the same, obviously, but like you know what I'm saying. Like there's so much monitoring, and that's just another interpretation. Yeah, like there's again, I don't think there's like a correct interpretation of this movie. Like I'm not trying to impose my own, right? When I was like talking about you know human beings being the antagonist, that was just a fun way of looking at it. But the thing about surveillance and privacy is super interesting. I didn't know that he was even angling for that. I wasn't even thinking about it, right? But like you could, it totally makes sense. You could draw that perfect interpretation out of the movie, and it's interesting to think about what a movie would look like today if you tried to make a movie using surveillance technology.
Well, like, yeah, I found a fan edit where someone had taken the trailer for Koyaanisqatsi, but recut it with like Shutterstock, like equivalent kind of images to make this weird kind of statement piece on there. Yeah,
that sounds fun.
It's playing with a lot as far as like this, just really pushing it, like what you can do with a narrative, and I don't know, just calling it a documentary even.
It's an experimental documentary, is what I would call it.
I don't know what you would call it.
Exactly. Yeah. What do you call it?
Like it's almost like a work of art. Like it's almost it almost is like the cave painting, right? It's like the cave painting that starts it. It's the same thing. It's just our version of that cave painting right now. It's just the movie.
Because it feels, when you think of a documentary, a lot of the time you associate it with what like facts and like research and that kind of thing. But this is more of like an emotional experience. Yeah, and that kind of thing. This is much more like emotive and abstract in a way you really would not describe most documentaries, at least that I've seen.
Some of my favorite shots, I really love the shot. So the first image we see of people that are not like workers taking part in like the, I guess, perceived destruction. The shot we see of just like the woman and her child like chilling on a beach, and then
sunbathers,
it kind of like zooms out and you're like, oh, there's like an industrial factory in the background producing a lot of smog, just showing like, you know, even the people that are relaxed and not explicitly participating in it are still participating in it, which is further driven home like the point when we see like the conveyor belts and like the food and you know, like we're all consumers in this society. I kind of almost got like Zone of Interest vibes with, you know, just like her on the beach and then the factory in the background. Like, oh, okay, yeah. Like you're a part of this, and you know, even if you're ignoring it. And then that entire high energy sequence that lasts for like fucking 30 minutes or whatever, of like super fast music, like all that shit.
Yeah.
All of the high speed people moving through the like the train doors and escalators and all that. I love how, you know, if you were to just do like a regular time lapse photography or just speed up regular footage of a film, it would have a very different look than how it's shown in this film. And so what they must have done is just do like a really long exposure time lapse, because you can see the like sort of natural motion blur,
the streaking,
and like the streaking of lights of the cars and anything that has motion. It's not. It has like a natural motion blur effect to it, which I really love, and makes it way more trippy, and it makes it just such an interesting visual. And that shot with the camera in the back seat, and they're just like the two guys in the front seat of the car, and they're driving at night, and just like this insane, almost like 2001: A Space Odyssey, of just like these streaking lights all just appearing out every visible window of the vehicle, like they're moving through fucking space in like warp speed.
Yeah,
it's crazy. I love those shots so much. The nighttime and the streaking lights. It's just such a crazy visual, and especially with the music like that, it's insane.
It kind of puts you in a trance. You know, it like puts a spell on you.
Yeah, it's exhilarating. And yeah,
I like that we get those POV shots. Yeah, like I like that like we get the wide shots of like here's what the traffic looks like from far away, but then here's what it looks like if you're in the traffic, right?
Yeah.
You're behind the car, and then there's other POV shots of you moving through the traffic. So you get every perspective, it feels like.
Yeah, it goes down to like intimate portrait shots too. Like I think of the lineup of the ladies of Vegas. That's a really great shot.
These golden girl looking
Yeah.
humans. It's so it's so cool, and they look like the cape, like they're shaped not like the cape paintings, but like they're kind of standing in a similar orientation. We're just like, yes, look at us, here we are, right? Like this is me. I'm the little rectangle. Sorry,
It's
I'm
me.
stay on this thing. There was so much playing with this idea of the foreground and the background that you were talking about, Adam, where like there's because those are some of my favorite shots are the stuff where like the factory with the sunbathers. We got the focus on the taxiing airplanes, and then you get pictures of traffic, and you see the airplane moving behind the traffic in the background, right, from the right to the left, and then later from left to right.
Oh,
and you get
that's a great shot.
Other background pictures. You get one of my favorites is the traffic on the left side of the street in the building sequences, and one of the buildings is in focus, and there's one guy like in a library like walking back and forth, while in the background there's just the traffic on the left. That's one of my favorite shots. And obviously you've got the massive moon shot where like the moon's kind of moving behind in an unnatural way behind the building. Probably optical, like digitally zoomed or something, I'm not sure. But like it's cool that there is this kind of I want to say focus, but it tries to put the background in the foreground without ignoring the background completely. It's like it's just all part of the same picture. It's all one composition. I just think it's like
that moonshot's incredible.
Yeah.
Awesome movie. 10 out of 10. Seen it a few times. Loved it.
Yeah.
Will you check out the rest of the trilogy? Because I don't know now if I want to see the third one after.
I don't even want to watch it. You've sold me on not.
Yeah, I mean,
it.
like I've exactly like I've had them because it's part of the Criterion Blu-ray, and I've just had these sitting around for so long, and I feel like any time that I would feel like I would want to put one of them on, I'd just put on Koyaanisqatsi again instead.
that was I just had that thought on loop, was like, should I just put that one on again? Like I had that thought like 3 or 4 times.
Like I'll check them out at some point. I don't think I'll hate them, maybe, I don't know, but we'll see. I think like, cause I'm looking at the IMDb ratings for like the third one has like a 6.4. I'm like, what the fuck did they do with that one to get a 6.4?
Well, like a huge problem it had is it didn't have the Philip Glass music. That changed the experience to such a degree.
I didn't even know.
I was like, yeah, it really like takes a lot away. I think he's in one of the other ones, but the one I watched from '88, it was definitely not his music. Yeah,
that would do a lot.
Did we do ratings for?
Yeah, honestly, definitely for me, it's a perfect movie, and I think everyone should watch it. I think it's weird. I was having this thought. I was like, man, if only like world leaders could watch this movie, like if Putin could watch this movie and Trump could watch this movie,
I don't know.
Like we'd have. I feel like it would do something. It has the ability to.
It's so open to interpretation, though. Like, imagine what like conclusion he might reach. All the world leaders, give them a joint each and just relax and watch this. And see what happens.
Maybe try to direct their experience a little bit. Maybe point it in a constructive direction.
Yeah.
What do you think, Alex?
Oh yeah, I forgot about ratings. Amazing, unique experience. It's kind of like the ultimate show don't tell movie. Like taking that concept, like let's just show and not tell you a damn word, and you can just take away what you want from that. I thought the runtime was perfect. What it explored is just so unique. I'll definitely be revisiting this regularly. I give this like a high 4.5 star, 9 out of 10, possibly go up. Whereas the Koyaanisqatsi, I'd probably give like a 5 maybe.
Damn.
Star. I was with it for like half an hour, but after that I was like just more and more tuned out. And just wanted to watch Koyaanisqatsi again.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, definitely get some friends together and get it done. And then watch Samsara if you want. I think that's honestly, it's not a bad
I'll definitely
experience.
check that one out. That seems more up my alley. Yeah.
Baraka's supposed to be good too.
I'd love to watch it.
Baraka
Awesome.
Obama. Fun fact, the director originally didn't even want a title for the movie because he didn't want the baggage of language.
A bit too experimental.
And so that's where Koyaanisqatsi
Right.
came out. Is like there's a word that, you know, the people watching the film won't have
Access to,
a sort of idea of what the word means.
Oh, right. So you're right.
Yeah.
That's a cool idea.
Which is a good choice.
I like
Yeah.
that they don't tell us until after the movie, like what the words and the lyrics mean. It's like it's not trying to influence your experience before the movie starts. Only after do you get like some of that translation, which I think is a good choice.
Yeah. Although on some of the marketing, you can see that they included the translation, so which is probably out of his control.
glad.
It's
Yeah.
like life out of balance. You can see as the subtitle in some of these.
The first time you showed me this movie, you didn't tell me anything about it. You just threw it on, and I feel like that's the perfect way to experience this
That
movie.
is,
It's just
yeah.
Don't tell anyone what it is. Sit them down, put it on, and just have an experience.
True.
It's kind of like the, what Darren Aronofsky tried to make with Postcards from Earth at the Vegas Sphere.
Yeah. So I hadn't seen that, obviously, when I saw that. And I was thinking about
That's part of why I was pissed at
that
it.
after. I was like, wow, okay, it really was that Koyaanisqatsi.
Yeah.
Just straight up one to
You
one.
tried to do that. You fucked up. You couldn't do it.
Yeah.
If they could, if there was a way to show Koyaanisqatsi at the Vegas Sphere, that'd be the ideal.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I did see, to anyone in London, they are playing it BFI in August, I think, on the big screen. So
Koyaanisqatsi?
I think it'd be really,
Oh,
I think it'd be really cool to see on a huge screen.
yeah. This is one of few movies that I will go out of my way to say, like, big screen, best visuals and sound you can possibly watch it. You want it loud, and you just want to get
I'm
absorbed
tempted to go
into
see
it.
that. Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah,
That'd be really cool.
Please watch this movie. If you haven't seen this movie and you're listening to this podcast, please watch it. I don't know if this is bad form, but yeah.
It's about rectangles and Roblox.
It's about rectangles. That's I'm sure I sound like an insane person. Honestly, this is the first time I've watched the movie and had that thought, but I still enjoy the thought just for myself. It's not really about rectangles. It's about whatever you want it to be.
I'll definitely keep that in mind next time I watch it.
Yeah, let me know. I thought the logistically, like the high speed shots were super cool because high speed technology wasn't like, obviously it just gets better as a function of time, and so to get the amount of detail that they got with some of the high speed footage, especially I'm thinking of like the waves, like the very early on you got just like. Do you remember what I'm talking about? Like with the waves crashing really slowly, just the amount of detail on the film that they got, unreal. Like they must have needed so much light for that, and obviously like the part it's well, like I don't want to say camouflaged, but like it's slightly underexposed, right? Because you need a lot of light to get high speed to work.
Yeah.
But it works because it's part of a sequence that's entirely also like in caves and at night and underexposed. So just like all of the choices that they made, it feels like anything that would look like an obstacle where it's like, this might get in the way, they found an opportunity to like perfectly place it and make it work. I just think that's so impressive.
It's remarkably well shot. And especially because if you were to make a movie like this today, it doesn't cost like a fucking a fortune to leave your camera rolling. When I did my music videos, there's a lot of shit I didn't use, and I just kind of, whatever shot.
Right, pre-digital, yeah.
Yeah, I had the freedom and flexibility of just like, okay, this is just going to take up a little bit of space on the hard drive, and I don't necessarily need this shot. But like every shot that they film in this movie, they were like on 35 millimeter. Shit's expensive. Like you have to have like an intentionality and a plan going into it in order to do this at all. And it took them 7 years to make.
Oh, 7 years. Yeah, because I was about to make that comment with the variation of like land mass. Like I mentioned, this one's mostly in America, but America is an enormous amount of variety of like geography. And you get all of it pretty much in the movies. So, man, they must have been darting all around the world for these. And it's like, how do you capture that, but have a plan and give it structure without it just being like aimless? Like I'm on holiday, just getting cool shots. I guess let's string this together later. Like, just it avoids feeling like that.
Yeah, like those initial canyon shots, like if we were to do that today, we would just use drones. It would just be drone footage, and you would be able to tell that it was drone footage. Whereas like here, like he's clearly just on a plane holding a camera, and it's just like it's like slightly shaky too. Which again, like they're not trying to hide like the camera. It's just everything. It's just showing you like here's what I'm showing you. Here's the thing, and it's just like it's just so cool. It's very much a show, not even show don't tell, just show. Movies just show.
Yeah.
And then you can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, you kind of decide what it's telling.
Koi. I don't think I can get the pitch.
It's so deep.
Did you play it?
No, but I think I've remembered the key. It's like, let's see if I got it. I've got the file here. Koyani. That's the extra octave. It's what I believe it is. So let me just fact check here. That is it.
Hooray.
I'm almost like,
What's the pitch on top of it?
Koyaanisqatsi. That's the
That's actually really hard.
It's really hard.
Oh, I think I got it. Hold on. Koyaanisqatsi.
There you go. That sounds right.
It's tiny bit sharp, but I finally got it.
He has to go lower too, right? Doesn't he go like
It's so low.
Or does it just stay on the one?
Is that like that throat singing thing?
Kind of.
You heard that before? It's like the Mongolian throat singing thing. I've heard that before. It's
different.
Cool as hell.
Fuck. Oh, whatever. Question time. Let's do it. Get out of here. Let's get out of here.
This podcast just turns into all of us trying to do like,
get me out of here.
Yeah. We're just gonna do this for like forever. Otherwise,
it's very tempting.
Well, it's so difficult.
It's difficult but alluring. Just like these questions we have from the Sardonicast community, which you can leave your own questions for future episodes over on that suggestion thread on the subreddit. Just like Dr. Spunk 2019. I didn't read that name before screenshotting it. How do you guys feel about the upcoming Shrek 5? It's back.
Hyped. But I mean, as long, my expectations are, as long as it's better than the third one, which it kind of has to be because the third movie is like the worst animated movie ever made, maybe of all time. Then it's probably fine.
It's not
and
good.
If it's better than the fourth one, even better. But we'll see.
I don't know what they did to my boy Poe recently. I'm still upset about that.
Oh God, that was a scam.
That was a scam.
That was an actual scam.
If they're willing to do that to my panda, I don't know what they're gonna do to my Shrek. So I don't know if who's directing this.
Is this a Madagascar reference? What am I missing here?
Oh, Poe is Kung Fu Panda.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah.
I haven't watched a lot of
the newest Kung Fu Panda film was literally a scam.
Oh,
there's like no other way to describe it.
A scam? How?
They marketed it as in like, oh, we're bringing back the original villains, and then they just weren't even really in it.
Oh,
and so the marketing lied. They spent way less money on it, and it shows. Like you can, it's something where you watch and it's like, wow, this animation's like fucking Netflix spin-off TV series or whatever. Like it was an actual scam movie.
Wow.
Like they intentionally spent less money on it and made the cheapest fucking thing possible, and it made a bunch of money. So.
It's the universal effect. That was bad news when they got bought up by them. How Illumination and them are under the same banner. I'm looking at who's directing Shrek 5, and I'm looking at someone credited for Minions: The Rise of Gru.
Oh God. No.
That's good on the resume.
So that's a good sign.
No.
There's that, and the writer of Donkey's Caroling Christmas-tacular from 2010. That's one of the directors as well. So we'll see. They got the best talent on there over there at DreamWorks, I guess.
The top brass working on it.
Do we remember do we remember the new Skadoosh? What was it? Skablam? Is that what they said?
Kaplow? Some shit like that, yeah. So was that Puss in Boots movie just like a complete random fluke? They like ignored that one, so it was able to just be this like amazing, like unexpected surprise with like this weird visual style and actually funny jokes.
Yeah, The Last Wish was actually great.
Yeah, where's that energy? Put that into Shrek 5, because I don't know what we're gonna see otherwise. Is it too late for Shrek? Has it come and gone? I guess we'll have to wait and see.
I think it's been dead for a while.
No, because Shrek has remained in the public consciousness since, like it's been an internet meme. That's why they're not rebooting it.
Yeah,
that's why they're keeping Mike Myers and everybody.
True. But like, I guess it's how can they capitalize on that without it being like the most embarrassing, like just pathetic attempt at like
Just
capitalizing on a meme
cash grab,
at this point. Yeah. You know,
they'll play All Star. Member.
Like, is it going to be like, oh yeah, Member Berry Shrek?
I feel like once you're past 3 movies, like once you have to make the 4th and the 5th of something, you have to start reflecting on whether or not it actually needs to exist.
Yeah.
For almost any, I can't think of a lot of movies where like the 4 and the 5 and the 6 needed to exist.
Saw.
I was gonna say Saw might be the only one, but even that one is more. It came together afterwards. They looked at it and they're like, they were trying their best in the moment, and afterwards it just came together in this beautiful, a beautiful mastery of kind of writing and cinema. But not a lot else. Not even Lord of the Rings. You got 3 movies, then they tried to do another 3, and they were shit. And I don't know, Star Wars. I don't know. Like, it just feels like, again, you're starting with 5.
3 seems like the safe number, yeah. Unless you have some kind of insane, like, backbone of a novel series, or you're like Dune or something, and you just
at which point just make a TV
like
miniseries or something, right? Like turn it into.
That's the thing.
5 feels gratuitous.
It does. It feels like, yeah, it's like that video game problem. When you start getting to these high numbers, they start kind of abandoning the numbers and start just putting like subtitles. So Shrek Revelations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somehow that's the one.
That's the one. Yeah. The lingering word. But yeah. So I'm looking forward to Shrek Revelations in 2026. We'll see how that comes together.
I should make a parody movie of just like a parody of bad movie tropes. Just call it something Revelations, and it's like the first one.
Well, that's kind of what is sad about them going back to the Shrek plot, is that it used to be this kind of, it was like a tongue-in-cheek, like sharp satire of like Disney, and
yeah, it was rebellious
because just Jeff Katzenberg just got fired, and
yeah. How can Shrek be counterculture now? Like, what could it actually do to be counter? Like, it just seems like I'm getting pissed off even just like talking about like the concept, like trying to, like, what the fuck angle do you do? I don't know. Well, speaking of things that are probably going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Own Space 2026 says, what's the worst song you've ever listened to? I have a definitive answer if you guys want to think for a second. I'd be curious if you know it, actually. This is a band where you could probably honestly answer this question with a myriad number of their songs. But specifically, I'm choosing Cutthroat by Imagine Dragons. Do you guys know this one?
Yeah, I'll put it on right now and just see.
Go to the chorus. I want your reaction.
I feel like I probably heard it just because it's Imagine Dragons, and I'm non-consensually listened to a lot of them.
It seems like a shitpost. It seems like a shitpost. Like a kinds of kindness, kind of like, are you like fucking with me right now?
Yeah, this is
that's the feeling I get.
Am I even at the chorus?
Yeah, this is exactly like Kinds of Kindness.
I can't even tell. I'm just skipping around. I don't even know which part the chorus is.
You got to get to the chorus, though.
Is it where he's like yelling?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
That's some Yoko Ono
Imagine Dragons is like way worse than Nickelback.
So much worse.
Yeah.
That Nickelback thing was like gaslighting, like in retrospect. Like compared to this.
Yeah.
Like, this is... I can't be dealing with this. But I'm addicted to it. I can't stop. Once I found Cutthroat by Imagine Dragons, like, everything changed. It's kind of like infected me. I keep revisiting it. I keep going back to that chorus.
Yeah, it's weird because like the question is a difficult question to answer, because if the worst song, almost certainly it is the case that the worst song I've ever listened to, I have not listened to all the way through. Right. It is almost certainly the case that I listened to the first 5 seconds of it or something and went, nope, I'm not listening to this. And
It has to be unfinishable.
away.
Yeah.
So I actually gracefully can say that I haven't listened to the worst song I've ever. I can't think of a song that's good enough that I would listen to it all the way through, but bad enough that I would categorize it as the worst song I've ever listened to, if you see what I'm saying. So I'm kind of trapped with this question.
I hear you.
Adam?
There's a Laughing Gnome by David Bowie. That's a good one. So what are you smoking?
There's a twink named Kevin Leonardo, infamous on YouTube for showing his hole. Just getting around, like literally just showing his butthole and penis on YouTube.
Okay.
Shout out to
And the
Kevin.
videos are still up because they're educational, I guess. He's like, here's how to remove your butthole hair.
Plucking nipple hairs with
It's-
fingers, a
it's-
visual guide 3
and,
weeks ago.
But listen, do not click on those videos. Like,
Unless you want to see someone's butthole.
I'm just saying, like, it comes on unless you want to see someone goat-seeing the camera.
Oh, it's on YouTube.
On-
Oh, you
on
haven't seen it?
YouTube.com.
Here, I'll send you a
You
link. Hold on.
serious?
Wait.
It comes off very quickly. You just click on any video, and within 3 seconds, someone's goat-seeing the camera. So if you don't want to see that, don't look up Kevin Leonardo on YouTube.
You're like exaggerating.
No, we're
I'm
not
not
exaggerating.
exaggerating.
Hold on.
I swear to God.
But how to douche
Oh,
your
is it
butt,
gone?
a detailed guide.
Oh my god. I sorted by most viewed and it's not there.
The douche in your butt one looks...
The douche your
How
butt.
to safely finger
He
your butt.
definitely shows his butt on the douche your butt one. I think his most viewed video is gone, the Nair butt cream one. Maybe it got enough reports.
Detailed guide. Okay.
Damn, that one had like 50 million views or something.
This was recent. This was like last week. I got
Oh, really?
what's the word? Ambushed. Adam ambushed us by
Oh, sorry.
throwing this guy's video on, and within 3 seconds there was just a butthole on my screen.
Dude. Yeah, to me, the most watched one there is how to douche your butt.
Yeah. So apparently the
Scrolling through,
Nair...
I'm not finding any asshole right now.
The Nair
The
one
Nair
got
butt
removed.
Well, yeah. So he on the
Really?
douche your butt video, he definitely also shows his butt. Unless he removed that part. Oh my god! Did he just?
I think it might be... I think it's out.
Is he not
Okay,
doing
thank
the
God.
thing anymore?
There's a chance he got
How?
reported.
Is he just not doing it anymore? Like it took a while for like. Is he just not showing whole on YouTube anymore?
This whole niche.
I assume so. I'm actually, honestly, I'm relieved
I
slightly.
wonder if he took it down.
Not because listen, no like disrespect or anything. I love the guy. He had a great business model, but again, I feel like it's a risk because you never know when the algorithm is going to recommend that.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Just like you click on, like you're watching a Nair video and you want to like figure out how it works, and then suddenly you're looking at this guy's butthole. It's just it feels like it shouldn't be on YouTube.
Anyway,
What's that got to do with the song, though, I guess is my question.
yeah. So he makes music too, and I linked his song called "Addicted," and then in parentheses, "Uh-oh." And the chorus is so funny.
Oh, yes, I see it.
And basically his music is very insincere. The lyrics, garbage. Just someone who listened to some pop music and is just trying to emulate like either Taylor Swift or...
Yeah.
And so, oh God, the chorus is so funny.
I'm trying to find the chorus.
It's at 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Oh, wow, it really...
I just thought of a song that might qualify as the worst song I've ever heard.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've listened to it from start to finish because Adam has shown it to me, and it's Spicy Pepsi.
Pepsi Spicy?
Pepsi
Like
Spicy.
a hot lady? That's not the worst. What are you talking about? That guy's a genius.
I think it might it might be. So I don't know. That's the only one I can think
Alex,
of.
do you know Pepsi Spicy?
It's ringing some kind of bell, but I don't know
Hold on. I'll
what.
send this to you.
Yeah.
Is this one from 12 years ago? Spicy Pepsi.
Let
me see.
by My Studio Demo.
Let me see.
It's a freestyle.
Yeah. Tell me if you think this is brilliant, Alex.
You're saying this is the worst? This is fucking fire.
Yeah, what the fuck?
I love seeing videos that are like more than 10 years old, like just how different it was back then.
Yeah. Yeah, spicy Pepsi is fire. I agree.
I quite like that, yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's probably my least favorite that I can think of. if that's a fair way of putting it.
Okay, we're putting together quite a good little album here.
Yeah. Some songs from the Shags. There's some things that are so bad that I love them, and they're like Neil Breen, you know?
But that's the thing, right? Is like, does that count? Right?
There's very few Neil Breen things for music. They're very special. You don't get a lot of like things that are so bad musically that they're good again. The Shags is that category.
Do you think the Shags is trying too hard to be bad?
No.
Or do you think it works?
That was sincere.
Yeah.
That's why it worked.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. That's the thing. Like,
yeah, if you're trying hard to be bad, it's already over, you know? It's a Birdemic 2 problem.
Yeah. Yeah, things that I hate the most would just be like fucking me going outside like into a grocery store and then whatever they're playing. Like
right, yeah.
Like what the music that I'm forced to listen to like non-consensually.
Yeah, no, I get that sometimes if I'm like getting a coffee or food somewhere.
Yeah. Like, what the fuck is this?
You hear something on the radio and it's like, oh my God, is this like a real song? Like people like listen to this? Okay.
Yeah. But like, I think most people that listen to it also listen non-consensually, because music is the type of thing where you can force something into existence. And just the nature of it being like infectious or catchy to some degree, like there's a formula of how to make things accessible to like a mainstream audience for music very easily. And so you like there's fucking millions of talented people creating identical songs to the shit that you hear when you walk outside, like go to the bar, like grocery store or wherever. And they're not being listened to. And the only difference is the studio's pumping one of them out, right? Like one of them's being, it's, what did Noam Chomsky say? Like manufactured consent. Like, does that apply here? Like,
right.
Yeah.
There's definitely an assembly line. That's for damn sure if you'll say, yeah, it's just this one's being plugged into this formula this week or whatever.
I really don't like top 40 music in general or pop music, but I have to admit that a lot of it is at least well produced.
Exactly.
And when I'm thinking of like the worst song I've ever heard, one of my like internal criteria is how good the production is on the mix, which is why I don't like something like, it's not I don't like, it's just like I would, the candidates that I would automatically pick for the worst songs are going to be stuff like Spicy Pepsi or The Shags or things of that nature, things that are poorly produced because they weren't trying to produce something good. But yeah, compositionally, I think from a composition perspective, you could easily make the case that a lot of top 40 music is derivative and terrible, and very difficult to listen to in that sense,
Easy to replace.
Yeah.
Easy to replace, like vacuous lyrics.
Yeah.
That's the one that honestly gets me the most is the lyrics. When you hear days of the week, like in the lyrics, and you're just like, really?
It reminds me of a John Mulaney bit where he talks about how every song is about how tonight is the night. We only have tonight. It's just like, that's about right.
Well, it's because it's a filler when you're writing a chorus and you've got 2 more syllables left and you've already said everything you have to say. You just say tonight.
Tonight, at
the end.
Tonight's going to be a good night. Yeah, Black Eyed Peas.
Tonight. And then if you're doing hip hop, you say the N-word.
True.
Right, yeah. Same syllables.
There's filler words.
Let's go.
Every culture has a different one. All right, couple more questions.
Oh, yeah. Let's do this one from Dog with a Shotgun 89. What are your favorite anthology films? Seeing as Kinds of Kindness is out, which anthologies most resonate with you? So how about ones that... Honestly, the one that pops into my head is Ballad of Buster Scruggs. That was the last time I remember, like,
That's a great
fully
one.
loving one of these anthologies, and it felt complete as a whole, and there wasn't a particular section that was dragging it down for me, or that's like a particular standout to me.
Fucking Hanky Chan has done some anthologies. You could consider 71 Fragments of a Chronology of Chance to be an anthology film. Code Unknown is an anthology film. Some great stuff in both of those.
Okay, yeah. Does something like Happiness count as an anthology film? I guess, like, yeah. Do they have to be distinct? Is Magnolia anthology? Kind of.
Yeah, I don't know if... No, I wouldn't categorize those in that way if they're, like, just multiple stories happening, like, intertwined. I would say when I'm thinking anthology, I think distinct start and end to each segment.
So a French Dispatch.
Without, like, going back and forth in, like...
The Animatrix or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Animatrix is a great example. Thank you for that one. Okay. I love the Animatrix.
Yeah, that's a cool one. What's that film we did? Amores Perros.
Oh, hell yeah.
I like that movie.
That was anthology, right?
I guess.
Right? That's 3,
Because
right?
that's more intertwining. Because it's weird to categorize things in this way. Because
Yeah, what's the definition?
Amores Perros has this, it's all happening in the same timeline pretty distinctly.
Yeah.
But then you could make that argument because, like, the most recent VHS movie, there are things that connected within some of the segments that were like, okay, this is a part of the same timeline. But then, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and Sin City kind of works that way, where it's like, it feels like it's disconnected, but it comes together at the end in some way.
I think that counts. I think it should, right? Like, I don't think I actually don't know. I don't know, like, what the word anthology technically means.
Yeah, we've just come to a definitional kind of blockade here.
Define an anthology, I guess.
So the wiki is saying an anthology film is a single film consisting of several shorter films, each complete in itself and distinguished from the other, though frequently tied together by a single theme, premise, or author.
Okay.
Sometimes each one is directed by a different director or written by a different author, or may even have been made at different times or in different countries. Yeah, so like a compilation film, kind of. So, here we go. Anthology films are often mistaken with hyperlink cinema. Hyperlink cinema shows parts of many stories throughout a film, whereas anthology films show story segments of one at a time. Some mistaken examples include Pulp Fiction and Amores Perros.
Interesting.
Distributing their storylines non-chronologically, separated by segments. So...
What was that called? Hyperlink. Not heard that before.
Hyperlink cinema.
Hyperlink cinema.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The day I learned.
Yeah, Sam.
Yeah, so the VHS films are fun. And I find myself not regretting each one that I watch.
Yeah, it was kind of those films that made me cement my, like, I just don't like this packaging that much. The anthology packaging. Yeah, sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I was just saying that, yeah, VHS, like, I haven't watched a lot of anthologies. I think VHS I've seen, which I liked. I thought it was solid. Amores Perros I really liked, but apparently it's not an anthology.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Sin City might be an anthology. That's okay, I guess.
No, that would fall under the Amores Perros thing.
I guess.
The hyperlink thing?
That would be a hyperlink cinema.
Hyperlink, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
There's a great movie called Tokyo with 3 segments, and one of them sucks, but 2 of them are great.
Okay.
Fucking 3 Extremes. There's some great segments in that. There's some good stuff.
Shout out to anthologies.
I wonder if I have a favorite. Yeah, I would...
Yeah, I don't know.
So now I'm feeling like 71 Fragments of a Chronology of Chance might be a hyperlink cinema. So it's not actually an anthology. And that might even also be the case with fucking Code Unknown. So I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about anymore. But,
Yeah, I'm scared.
I mean, it's all definitions. You can set any definition you want. Be like, I think this is an anthology, and so this is my favorite anthology. Like, I don't think that's, like, not allowed. It's like, there's no government that's going to shut you down.
People would still understand what you're getting at. What you
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not a prescriptivist.
All right, one more question.
Sure.
Right, let's end on this one then from Butter467. Relatively recently, it was announced that a film based on the October 7th attacks is currently in development, with producers seemingly being biased given their connections. Similarly, a film about January 6th is also in development with Adam McKay said to write the film. My question is it too soon to make films based on recent tragic events? And also, should these tellings of the events come from an unbiased place, or should it come from a certain perspective?
That's a complicated one.
This is a form of
It is a complicated one.
Very complicated. I feel like the more films I see of this kind of ilk that we talk about, like Greengrass is the director we often point at for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. The more recent it is, the more distasteful it feels to me. Maybe, especially with this kind of like exaggerated dramatic framing, maybe if you want to do some kind of documentary or something, I could understand that somewhat more, but something puts me off about this idea. There's something tacky about it. There's something distasteful.
Can you repeat the question, actually?
Is it too soon to make films based on recent tragic events, and also should these tellings of the events come from an unbiased place?
There's no such thing as an unbiased place, but
yeah, you're going to struggle with that.
That's for sure a given. But I think the question is also, it's not, it's too open, because the question is, is it too late to make like films based on recent events? But a film could be like a work of art. It could be like an emotional experience. It doesn't have, you know what I'm saying? Like and it could be based very loosely on a recent event. I think that's different from, should you be making like a documentary that covers like an event? I think those are different creatures. Especially if you're looking at a documentary, there's no such thing as an unbiased source, even for a documentary. And I think it actually think it behooves people to get as much information as they can about a recent event if they're making a documentary about it, and continually refresh their understanding of something based on more and more documentaries as they come out more and more recently. Like October 7th, there was an Al Jazeera documentary, like an Al Jazeera investigation segment that's like an hour long. It's basically feature length, where they go through, they do their research investigations, they show footage, they explain what happened. And because it's Al Jazeera, of course, there's going to be a bias. But you still get information from the documentary that you don't otherwise get from other sources. So I'm a big proponent of, if you're looking at a documentary or if you're trying to get information about an event, that it's kind of like news. You don't just like make a film and consume it and enjoy it. It's more like it's kind of an ongoing process of updating the information as it becomes available and watching documentaries and things like that. Whereas the film question, I think, of course, you can make a film about anything, honestly. I don't think it even necessarily has to be distasteful. That can be judged on a case-by-case basis. But in terms of making a film, that could be an emotional experience or a narrative or a fiction. Yeah, sure. Why not? I don't think there should be a statute of limitations or a minimum time you have to wait before making making something about that subject. It's
all entirely just dependent on the individual film and what they're going for, and like, are they just trying to purely capitalize on something and strike the iron while it's hot and just think about thinking about it as a business decision, like, oh, this is topical, right? Paul Greengrass, and like his movies seem really
yes, that sincerity,
opportunistic,
manipulative, and insincere and opportunistic. Yeah, but yeah, there's no rule that anyone should have to follow in terms of like how soon is too soon. Like, Nathan Fielder and Emma Stone are making a film about the chest butt plug incident.
Hans Zimmer,
right? I didn't know they're doing that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, hype for that. Is it too soon? I don't know.
Might be.
Depends on what you're going for.
There might still be a pending court case.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. It does have to be a case-by-case thing, because it's like, what? Are we just going to collectively agree that 5 years is the time period, and then we just chill with it?
It's arbitrary,
Of course,
right?
It doesn't work like that. Yeah, it is arbitrary.
Awesome. Thanks for the questions.
Yeah, some fun ones in there.
That was dank. I believe, Alex, it's your turn to recommend something.
Yes. So I did have something in mind, but you pointed out that it's going to be episode 169. So I feel like I have to at least somewhat capitalize on that. And I've chosen a film I don't think either of us have seen, Belle de Jour, 1967. I haven't seen it, so I can't say too much, but it looks...
How do I spell that? Oh, here we go. Belled.
de jour.
Jour. It's on my watch list.
Nice.
It's, yeah.
All right.
Just going to leave it at that, to be honest.
Directed by Louis Buñuel, if I pronounced that correctly.
Frigid young housewife decides to spend her midweek afternoons as a prostitute. So there we go.
Nice. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff on my watch list from this director, so I guess this will be the first one I see from them.
Cool.
Yeah.
Belle
go.
de jour. Fuck, I fucked that up so bad. Gaël,
There's
cover
an
me.
R in there.
Jour.
Belle de jour.
I just don't even try.
Belle de jour. Thank you. Oh, Catherine Deneuve.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
1967.
Yeah, she's great.
Someone young.
Okay, cool. If you don't want to be spoiled for Belle de Jour, watch it before the next episode is out. These episodes come out every 2 weeks. You can listen to them early going to Sardonicast.com. Sign up for premium. It's only $2 a month. Or patreon.com/Sardonicast. Or just hit the join button on the fucking YouTube thing.
Join.
And it's a membership thing, and you can listen to them early. Support the show. We got a Sardonicast highlights channel. Subscribe to that on YouTube. I don't know. There's other stuff. Just give us money, maybe.
Find it.
Just fucking give us your money. I think that's it. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, thanks.
Gaël, where can people find you and follow you if you want to plug socials or whatever?
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. I'm on Twitter, or X, I guess, at _Vexel.
I'm on X right now.
I'm on X, guys. I don't use it very much, so I don't even really know, honestly. It's fine. Just watch, I'm on Adam and Pal's, Adam's channel. You can, say hi. Like, sometimes I do Twitch streams. Everything, there's the links. But yeah, I'm mostly just on Twitter at _Vexel for my my main Twitter.
What's your Twitch?
Awesome.
My Twitch, which I haven't streamed in probably years, is Vexel _TV, VEXEL _TV.
Dank.
So yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
Nice.
Of course. Thanks for joining. That was
Yeah, I
great.
enjoyed that.
Always a pleasure to talk about movies.
Awesome convo.
And have a happy Shrek 5.
Finally.
Oh, God.
Finally.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.